Today, I want to talk about a group, MGTOW, an acronym for Men Going Their Own Way, that has laudable aims but seems to have elements within it that are very misguided. I suppose the intentions of most of those promoting MGTOW are good, that they see themselves as protecting young men by warning them of the dangers of becoming involved with most modern American women. But too many of the MGTOW advocates go too far and recommend that men live a life without women. There is nothing good about advising young men to choose a life of childless bachelorhood, as that is associated with a significant increase in the incidence of a number of physical and mental illnesses and a shorter lifespan, not to mention the misery of likely prolonged periods of loneliness, particularly in one's later years. Given the problematic cost-benefit ratio of choosing a lifetime of bachelorhood, I would not be surprised if there were nefarious forces at work promoting such advice. One likely source of support would be from super elites, Plutocrats, who have shown an interest over the years in population reduction and also in sowing division and social chaos among the common people, which could help such elites to achieve total control over the society and the government without much fear of significant resistance. Others who would support advising men to stay away from women would be radical feminist groups, particularly those who want to worsen male-female relations and who promote misandry and lesbianism and hope to create an all-female human race. MGTOW extremists encourage men to give up on women and on male-female relationships, which is exactly what these radical feminists want, as it leads to alienation, mistrust, misunderstanding, and even hostility between the sexes. Now, I do believe that young men today are facing hostility from women, especially young women, and from society generally, but the solution that MGTOW extremists provide does more harm than good. A more targeted and more healthy solution is to attack the progressive narrative that is supported by the aforementioned plutocrats and radical feminists, and that seems to have our society in its grips today as it twists and tortures the flow of human relations. More people need to point out the contradictory nature of that narrative, as it claims that all people are equal regardless of their race, ethnicity, gender, or sexuality, with the related claim that any observed inequality is almost certainly the result of discrimination, while it ignores this implication when it comes to suffering men. That discrimination is responsible for more men committing suicide, becoming homeless, going to prison and receiving longer sentences for the same crimes, dropping out of school, and becoming victims of physical assault and murder. And virtually everyone knows, though most won't admit it, in today's cultural climate, people are generally friendlier to women than to men, while it is legal to discriminate against men in hiring and in promotions in the workplace. This is all on top of the total control over reproduction and over children that has been given to women. In closing, I believe that increasing the mistrust and hostility of young men towards women, which appears to be a goal of some associated with MGTOW, is not helpful to them or to the general society and cannot do anything but provide harm in the long term. The radical feminists and others who promote the progressive narrative are creating more than enough mistrust and even hatred toward men and boys, and responding in kind does nothing to heal the deep divisions that have already been created. Instead of throwing more fuel into the fire, all people, whether male or female, who care about the welfare of society and the human race, should be pushing back against the progressive narrative and promoting instead the notion that we should be doing all we can to increase understanding and trust between the sexes. Future human survival would depend on social stability and harmony, and those depend on the extent to which we each feel a bond with others in our society. And the strongest social glue we have ever produced to achieve that is that provided by healthy male-female relations.